The blue-white star of the luminary system cast its gentle light across the scattered defense vessels that formed a protective ring around the sixth planet. Aboard the command deck of the Starlight, Captain Wren stared at the tactical display, with growing dread. The once orderly pattern of friendly ships had broken into chaos as the third wave of Void Dominion attackers pushed through their weakening lines. "Captain, our forward shields are at 12%, reported Officer Lin, her slender fingers moving rapidly across the control panel. Like all Luminari, Lin had pale, almost translucent skin that seemed to glow from within. Her large, silvery eyes reflected the emergency lights now flashing throughout the bridge. Wren nodded grimly. The Luminari had never been warriors. Their civilization had evolved on a world of gentle breezes and moderate temperatures, with few natural predators and abundant resources. Their technological advancement had come through cooperation and scientific curiosity, not through the pressures of survival or conflict. The Void Dominion knew this all too well. "Status of the orbital defense platforms?" Wren asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Platforms 3 through 7 are no longer responding." Lin's voice trembled slightly. "The colony on Mira's moon reports they are evacuating to the underground shelters." Through the main viewport, Wren could see the angular black ships of the Void Dominion moving with predatory precision. Their hulls absorbed light rather than reflected it, making them appear like moving holes in space. The largest vessel, nearly 3 times the size of the Starlight, was positioning itself for a direct assault on the planet's capital city. "We need help," Wren said finally, making the decision he had been avoiding for hours. "We cannot win this battle alone." The communications officer, Tav, looked up with surprise. "Sir, there are no other Luminari fleets close enough to reach us. The nearest allied world is 10 light cycles away." "I know." Wren moved to the central communication array. "I'm not calling for Luminari help. I'm going to send a general distress call beyond our known space." A shocked silence fell over the bridge. The Luminary Council had strict rules about contacting unknown civilizations. Such actions required approval, careful diplomatic preparation, and extensive research. But with their world facing destruction, protocols seemed increasingly meaningless. "Prepare. The deep space transmitter," Wren ordered. "Maximum power. Set it to broadcast on all frequencies, including the old ones we rarely use." As the crew worked to fulfill his commands, Wren composed the message. It was simple but conveyed their desperate situation. "This is Captain Wren of the Luminary vessel, Starlight. Our world is under attack by hostile forces. We request immediate assistance from any receiving this message. Our coordinates follow. Please help us." The ship shuddered as another blast from the Void Dominion flagship struck their weakening shields. "Message ready, sir," Tav reported. "Send it," Wren commanded, "and keep sending it until we can't." The message burst outward from the Starlight, traveling at speeds beyond light itself, thanks to the Luminari's advanced communications technology. It passed beyond their known region of space, beyond the territories charted in their stellar maps, racing into the darkness between stars. 3 weeks later, at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station orbiting Jupiter, Lieutenant Dave Miller was completing his usual shift. The monitoring station was mostly automated, with human oversight mainly required for maintenance and decision-making, if unusual signals were detected. Miller was about to log out when a soft alert sounded from his console. "That's odd," he muttered, tapping the screen to bring up the alert details. The system had detected an encrypted signal on a frequency rarely used by Earth vessels. The pattern didn't match any known Earth or allied species communications. Following standard protocol, Miller forwarded the signal to the advanced decryption systems. Within minutes, the computer had unraveled enough of the message to determine it wasn't random space noise but a structured communication. "Command, this is Jupiter Station," Miller spoke into his comm. "We've picked up what appears to be an artificial signal from Sector 47B. It's not one of ours." Admiral Tom Hayes was reviewing fleet deployment plans when the report from Jupiter Station reached him. At 53, Hayes had spent most of his life in the United Earth Navy. He had seen humanity expand from their home system to establish colonies on a dozen worlds. They had encountered 3 other spacefaring species so far, all peaceful trading relationships. "Put it through to my office," Hayes instructed. Moments later, the partially decoded message played through his speakers. The alien voice was translated by the computer into a flat, emotionless approximation of human speech. "Under attack by hostile forces. Request immediate assistance. Coordinates follow." Hayes leaned forward, his interest piqued. "How far away is the source?" "Approximately 1,200 light-years, sir," his aide replied. "Well beyond our established territories." Hayes stood and walked to the star map that covered one wall of his office. "Show me." A small red dot appeared on the display, in a region humans had never explored. The distance was considerable, but not impossible with the new fold space technology that had been successfully tested just months earlier. "We should bring this to the Galactic Council representatives," suggested Commander Patel, Hayes' second-in-command. "This could be some kind of trap." Hayes continued studying the map. "Or it could be genuine. Someone out there needs help. Sir, with respect, we don't know anything about either side in this conflict. The Council protocols suggest observation before intervention in unknown situations." Hayes turned from the map with a determined expression. "If someone sent an SOS and we waited to watch while they died, how could we call ourselves human? Prepare Battle Group 5 for immediate deployment." "Battle Group 5? Patel's eyes widened. "That's 5 of our most advanced warships. And they have the new fold space drives installed." Hayes nodded. "They can reach these coordinates faster than any other vessels we have." "The Council representatives will object," Patel warned. "Let them," Hayes replied firmly. "I'll take full responsibility. Humanity didn't get to the stars by standing back and watching. We help those who need it. That's who we are." As Commander Patel left to relay the orders, Hayes returned his gaze to the distant point on the map. Whoever had sent that message had no idea that their call for help would be answered by a species that had evolved on one of the harshest worlds known to the galaxy, a high-gravity, radiation-bathed, predator-filled planet that had forced its inhabitants to become tougher, more resilient, and more determined than most spacefaring races could imagine. "Hold on," Hayes whispered to the unknown aliens. "Help is coming." The massive loading bay of Earth's orbital shipyard buzzed with activity as crews prepared Battle Group 5 for departure. 5 gleaming warships dominated the space, their hulls bearing the insignia of the United Earth Navy. The flagship, Relentless, stood largest among them, its reinforced titanium alloy frame designed to withstand forces that would tear lesser vessels apart. Commander Alex Morgan strode across the deck, ducking under a supply line that technicians were attaching to the ship's external ports. At 42, Morgan had the weathered look of someone who had spent most of their life in space. A scar ran along their left jawline, a reminder of a pirate encounter in the Proxima system years earlier. "Status report," Morgan called out as they approached the ship's chief engineer. Engineer Ryan Wells looked up from his tablet. "Fold space drive is calibrated and ready, Commander. We've never jumped this far before, but the math checks out. If those alien coordinates are accurate, we should arrive within half a kilometer of the target location. And if they're not accurate," Wells shrugged, "then we could end up anywhere within that star system, or inside a sun. But I'm optimistic." Morgan smiled grimly. Humanity's relationship with space travel had always been built on calculated risks. Earth itself had shaped humans into creatures that constantly pushed boundaries. Inside the Relentless, the ship's science officer, Dr. Ellie Ward, was analyzing the alien distress call with her team. The message had been fully decoded now, and they had extracted as much information as possible from the brief transmission. "What do we know about them?" Morgan asked as they entered the science lab. Dr. Ward gestured to the holographic display showing spectral analyses of the alien voice. "Based on the audio frequencies and speech patterns, we believe they evolved in an environment with a thin atmosphere and low gravity. Their language contains sound ranges that suggest highly sensitive hearing. Meaning they probably come from what we would classify as a garden world. Minimal environmental pressures, few natural disasters, stable climate. Essentially, the opposite of Earth." Morgan nodded thoughtfully. Humans had long ago realized they were unusual in the galaxy. Most spacefaring species they'd encountered had evolved on worlds far more hospitable than Earth. With its punishing gravity, extreme temperature variations, and high oxygen levels that allowed for both rapid energy production and devastating wildfires. And the attackers? No information, Dr. Ward admitted. But if they're attacking a garden world species, they might be more like us, evolved under greater pressure. The ship's intercom buzzed. Commander Morgan to the bridge for pre-departure briefing. The bridge of the Relentless hummed with quiet efficiency as officers prepared for the mission. Lieutenant James Cooper, the tactical officer, was running weapons diagnostics when Morgan arrived. All weapon systems online and ready, Commander, Cooper reported. Railguns charged, missile bays loaded, and point defense lasers calibrated. Morgan took the command chair and activated the ship-wide communication system. Attention all personnel. This is Commander Morgan. In 30 minutes, we depart on humanity's longest space jump to date. Our mission is clear. Respond to a distress call from an unknown species and render assistance against hostile forces. Morgan paused, letting the weight of the moment sink in. We don't know what we'll find when we arrive. We don't know if these aliens will welcome us or fear us. What we do know is that someone asked for help and we're answering. That's what humans do. Throughout the 5 ships of Battle Group 5, crews listened to the commander's words. Many had families on Earth or the colony worlds. All understood the risks of using experimental technology to jump into an unknown conflict. Final preparations. Everyone. Morgan out. As the communication ended, Admiral Hayes's face appeared on the private channel. Commander, the Galactic Council representatives have formally protested this mission. They say we're violating at least 3 provisions of the non-intervention protocols. Morgan raised an eyebrow. And your response, sir? Hayes smiled slightly. I reminded them that Earth signed those protocols with reservations specifically, exempting distress calls. We're proceeding as planned. Good luck, Commander. Bring our people home safe. The connection ended, and Morgan turned to the navigation officer. Begin jump sequence. The 5 ships of Battle Group 5 moved away from the shipyard in perfect formation. Their conventional engines glowed blue against the blackness of space as they cleared the minimum safe distance for fold space activation. Aboard the Relentless, the engineering deck vibrated as the experimental drive powered up. The fold space technology had been developed after studying natural wormholes near Proxima Centauri. It didn't actually move the ships faster than light. Instead, it temporarily folded space itself, bringing the destination closer to the origin point. Fold space drive at 90%, Wells reported from engineering. Field stabilizing. Morgan gripped the arms of the command chair. All ships, prepare for jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1, execute. Outside the ships, space itself seemed to ripple and bend. Stars blurred and stretched like pulled taffy. Inside, despite the inertial dampeners, the crew felt a strange sensation, as if they were being gently compressed from all sides at once. Then, suddenly, it stopped. Jump complete, announced the navigation officer, sounding slightly surprised. All ships present and accounted for. Position matches target coordinates within acceptable margin of error. Morgan released a breath they hadn't realized they were holding. Status report. All systems functional, Wells reported from engineering. Fold space drive cooling down for potential return jump. The tactical officer, Cooper, spoke next. Long-range sensors detecting multiple ship signatures approximately 3 light minutes away. Energy readings suggest active weapon systems and damaged vessels. Life signs? Confirmed but not human baseline, reported Dr. Ward, who had joined them on the bridge. At least 2 distinct species from initial readings. Morgan stood, straightening their uniform. It seems we've arrived in the middle of someone's war. Battle Group 5, advance at half speed. Shields up, weapons hot, but do not fire unless fired upon. As the 5 Earth warships moved forward in formation, their sensors began gathering more detailed information about the conflict ahead. The crew of the Relentless worked with practiced efficiency, preparing for first contact under the worst possible circumstances. On the main view screen, distant flashes of light marked the ongoing battle. Morgan watched silently, knowing that humanity was about to announce its presence to a new corner of the galaxy. And if there was one thing history had taught them, it was that humanity's arrival rarely went unnoticed. Communications. Morgan ordered. Prepare to broadcast on all frequencies. Let's introduce ourselves before we join the party. The 5 Earth ships emerged from the darkness of space like predators entering a hunting ground. Their polished hulls reflected the distant starlight as they moved in perfect formation toward the battle zone. Through the main viewport of the relentless Commander Morgan could now clearly see the conflict unfolding. 7 massive black vessels surrounded a scattered defensive line of smaller silvery ships. The black ships fired beams of sickly green energy that cut through the defenders. With terrifying precision, several of the silver ships were already drifting, their hulls breached and internal systems exposed to the vacuum of space. Tactical analysis, Morgan ordered. Lieutenant Cooper's fingers danced across his console. The larger vessels appear to be using some form of particle beam weapons. Extremely high energy output. The defending ships have energy shields, but they're failing under sustained fire. I count 12 defender vessels still operational, and 7 attacker ships. 1 planet. In the habitable zone shows signs of orbital bombardment. Life signs on the damaged ships. Dr. Ward checked her readings. Faint but present. Their life support systems must have emergency backups. Morgan nodded. Communications. Broadcast on all frequencies. Standard first contact package plus a clear statement of our intentions to assist the defenders. The communications officer, Lieutenant Area Fisher, began transmitting. The first contact package was a carefully designed set of mathematical sequences, simple pictograms and basic language samples that Earth vessels had used successfully in previous encounters. Adding message. This is Commander Morgan of the United Earth Navy. We received your distress call and have come to render assistance. Please identify friendly forces. Seconds stretched into a full minute with no response from either side. The battle continued, with another defender ship taking a direct hit that sent it spinning out of formation. They're ignoring us, Cooper observed. Morgan leaned forward. Or they're too busy to answer. Magnify the closest defender ship. The view screen zoomed in, showing a vessel with elegant curves and what appeared to be crystalline components integrated into its hull. Morgan could see movement through transparent sections, slender figures rushing through corridors. That matches the physical profile we extrapolated from the distress call, confirmed Dr. Ward. Those are likely the Luminari. Suddenly, the communications panel lit up. Incoming transmission, Commander. Audio only. Put it through. A melodic voice filled the bridge, speaking in an alien language that the ship's computers immediately began analyzing. After a few seconds, the translation program engaged, converting the speech to English. Unknown vessels, this is Captain Wren of the Luminari Defense Force. You received our call? We did not think anyone would come. The Void Dominion has broken through our outer defenses. Our world is in danger. Morgan responded clearly. We are here to help, Captain Wren. Direct us where we can be most effective. Before Wren could answer, a second communication cut in, harsh and guttural, even through the translator. Interfering vessels, this is Overseer Drac of the Void Dominion Fleet. This conflict does not concern you. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed along with these weaklings. The largest of the black ships was now turning toward the Earth battle group, its weapon ports glowing with building energy. Cooper straightened at his tactical station. They're targeting us, Commander. Morgan's face hardened. It seems diplomacy isn't their strong suit. All ships, combat spread. Prepare to engage, but hold fire until they commit. The Earth vessels smoothly shifted formation, creating a 3-dimensional defensive pattern that would make it difficult for enemies to target more than one ship at a time. On the Void Dominion flagship, Overseer Drac watched the newcomers with contempt. The mysterious vessels were smaller than his capital ships, though larger than the pathetic Luminary defenders. Their design was unfamiliar, blocky and functional rather than elegant or intimidating. Another species of weaklings, Drac growled to his second-in-command. Evolved on some gentle world, no doubt. Let's show them what happens to those who interfere with the Dominion. Energy weapons charged, Overseer, reported his weapons officer. Target their largest vessel. Full power. The massive black ship unleashed a beam of energy that crossed the space between the fleets in an instant. It struck the Relentless head-on, bathing the Earth vessel in green light. On the Luminari command ship, Captain Wren watched with dread. The strange ships that had answered their call were about to learn the hard way what the Void Dominion was capable of. That beam could cut through Luminari shields in seconds. These newcomers would. Wren blinked in confusion. The green beam was still focused on the Earthship, but instead of cutting through it, the energy seemed to be dispersing across its shields. Aboard the Relentless, the bridge shook slightly but remained stable. Shield status? Morgan demanded. Shields holding. At 87%, Cooper replied, sounding surprised himself. Their weapon is powerful, but nothing our systems can't handle. Morgan allowed a small smile. Let's return the greeting. Target their weapons array, 1/4 power. Let's not escalate more than necessary. The Relentless responded with its main railgun, a weapon that used electromagnetic force to accelerate a metal projectile to a significant fraction of light speed. There was no beam, no flash of energy, just the nearly invisible streak of the projectile followed by an explosion of debris from the side of the Void Dominion flagship. On the Void Dominion vessel, alarms blared as Overseer Drac was thrown from his command chair. Damage report, he shouted over the noise. Starboard weapons. Array destroyed, came the stunned reply. Hull breach on deck 7 through 9. Whatever hit us penetrated our shields as if they weren't there. Drac struggled to his feet, eyes wide with shock. Impossible. Increase power to forward shields and fire all remaining weapons. The Void Dominion ships reoriented, focusing their fire on the Earth battle group. Green energy beams lashed out, joined by salvos of plasma torpedoes. Evasive maneuvers, Morgan ordered calmly. All ships, you are free to engage. Target weapon systems and engines. What followed astonished the watching Luminari. The Earth ships moved with unexpected agility, their hulls designed to withstand the punishing gravity of their homeworld, making them structurally stronger than either the Luminari or Void Dominion vessels. When hit, their advanced shields absorbed energy that would have destroyed a Luminari ship instantly, and they hit back hard. From the hangars of the Earth vessels came squadrons of fighter craft, small and agile. Lieutenant Jack Wilson led Alpha Squadron from the Relentless, his voice steady as he directed his pilots. Target their sensor arrays and weapons ports. Quick strikes, don't linger in their firing solutions. The Earth fighters darted between the massive Void Dominion ships, their precision strikes causing disproportionate damage. The Dominion had no equivalent small craft. They had never needed them against the Luminari. Captain Wren watched in amazement as the tide of battle shifted. In minutes, these newcomers, these humans as they called themselves, fought with a coordination and ferocity the Luminari had never witnessed. What kind of world creates such warriors? Wren whispered to Officer Lin. As if in answer, the translation of Commander Morgan's orders to his fleet came through their communication system. Remember your training. Their gravity is lower than Earth's. Their ships will be built to different structural standards. Hit hard, hit fast, and watch your six. We didn't come all this way to lose. Lin's silvery eyes widened. They come from a high-gravity world? That explains their vessel strength and reaction speeds. Wren nodded slowly, understanding dawning. We've called Deathworlders to our aid. The battle continued to unfold, with the Void Dominion forces now frantically adjusting their tactics to deal with an enemy unlike any they had faced before. An enemy evolved on a world that would kill a Luminari, or even a Dominion soldier within minutes of exposure. An enemy that called such a lethal environment home. Overseer Drac staggered as another impact rocked his flagship. Warning lights flashed across the command deck, and the acrid smell of burned circuitry filled the air. Through the viewport, he watched with mounting horror as the human vessels systematically dismantled his battle formation. How is this possible? He snarled, slamming his fist against a damaged console. They're half our size. His tactical officer, a veteran of dozens of conquests, looked up with fear in his yellow eyes. Overseer, our scans are getting through their hulls now. Their internal structure it's like nothing we've seen before. Multiple redundant systems, compartmentalized sections that can seal off completely. And their crews, they're moving in what should be lethal acceleration forces. Drac moved to the scanning station, pushing aside a junior officer to see for himself. The readings couldn't be right. These humans had bone density nearly twice that of a Void Dominion soldier, muscle fiber structures that suggested they evolved in at least 1.5 times standard gravity. "Where do they come from?" he whispered. On another screen, he watched as one of the smaller human ships executed a maneuver that subjected its hull to forces that would have torn a Dominion vessel apart. The ship emerged from the turn and fired directly into the engine housing of Drac's second-largest vessel, sending it drifting helplessly. "All ships, converge on their flagship," Drac ordered. "Concentrate all fire. Nothing can withstand our combined power." The remaining Void Dominion vessels moved to obey, turning their attention to the Relentless. Green energy beams converged on the human ship from multiple angles. Aboard the Relentless, Commander Morgan gripped the arms of the command chair as the ship shuddered under the assault. "Shields at 43% and dropping," Cooper reported. "They're throwing everything at us now," Morgan nodded. "Just as we expected, Lieutenant Fisher, Signal Battle Group 5, execute Pattern Omega." While the Dominion focused their attack on the Relentless, the other 4 Earth ships moved into position behind them. The trap was sprung with devastating efficiency. Caught between the still-fighting Relentless and the flanking Earth vessels, the Dominion ships suddenly found themselves under attack from all sides. "Launch boarding parties," Morgan ordered. "Target their command ship. I want Overseer Drac's surrender, not his destruction." Captain Eli Reed stood in the dropship bay, checking the seals on his combat armor one final time. Around him, 20 Marines did the same. Their armor was designed for the worst environments imaginable: vacuum, crushing pressure, extreme temperatures, and hostile atmospheres. "Remember," Reed addressed his team, "we don't know the internal atmosphere of their vessels. Full suits, sealed until we confirm it's breathable. Standard breach protocol." The Marines nodded, their faces set with determination. Most had served together for years, fighting pirates in the outer colonies or conducting rescue operations in environments no unprotected human could survive. "Launch in 30 seconds, came the announcement over the speakers. Reed felt the familiar surge of adrenaline. "Lock and load, people. Let's show these Dominion folks why picking a fight with humans is a bad idea." The dropship detached from the Relentless with a metallic clunk, its thrusters firing to direct it toward the damaged section of the Dominion flagship. 2 more dropships followed, each carrying a full Marine complement. Inside the Luminary, command vessel Captain Wren and his science officer, Tav, watched the battle with growing amazement. The ship's sensors captured footage of the human boarding craft approaching the Dominion flagship. "They're going to board them?" Tav asked incredulously. "The Dominion internal atmosphere is highly caustic to most species. It's part of their natural defense." Wren enlarged the image, focusing on the armored humans visible through the dropship's viewport. "Look at their protection. They're prepared for hostile environments." Tav worked quickly at his console, pulling up the limited data they had gathered on the human physiology. "Captain, these readings can't be right. According to this, these humans evolved on a world with oxygen levels that would be toxic to us, radiation that would damage our cellular structure, and gravity that would crush our bodies. Are you saying they're from a death world?" Wren asked, using the Luminary term for planets considered too hostile for intelligent life to evolve. "Not just any death world," Tav replied, his voice hushed with awe. "Possibly one of the most extreme still capable of supporting complex life. No wonder they fight like this. Their entire evolution has been one long battle for survival." The dropships reached the Dominion flagship, attaching to its hull with magnetic clamps. Specialized cutting tools began burning through the outer plating, creating entry points for the boarding parties. Captain Reed was first through the breach, his suit sensors immediately analyzing the ship's atmosphere. "Nitrogen-sulfur mix," he reported back to his team. "Oxygen levels at 7%. Atmospheric pressure 20% higher than Earth standard. Exactly what Intel predicted. Suits sealed. Proceed with caution. The Marines moved through the corridor with practiced efficiency, encountering the first Dominion soldiers within minutes. The aliens were tall, with thick gray skin and pronounced bone ridges, clearly evolved for combat. But they had never faced humans before. The Dominion soldiers fired energy weapons that the Marines' armor partially deflected. The humans responded with controlled bursts from their kinetic weapons, a technology the Dominion had long abandoned, in favor of energy-based systems. The solid projectiles tore through the unprepared defenders. Reed led his team deeper into the ship, following the path to the command deck that the Relentless' sensors had mapped out. Along the way, they encountered increasingly desperate resistance. "They don't understand what they're fighting," Reed's second-in-command commented as they secured another junction. Reed nodded. "They've probably been the apex predator for too long. They've forgotten what it's like to be hunted." Meanwhile, in another section of the Dominion flagship, a group of luminary prisoners listened to the sounds of battle drawing closer. They had been captured when their science vessel was taken early in the invasion. Among them was Dr. Lila, the luminary's leading xenobiologist. The door to their holding cell suddenly sparked and then was forced open. Two human Marines stood in the doorway, their armored forms seeming impossibly solid and strong to the slender luminary. "We've found civilians," one Marine reported into her comm. "Appears to be captives. Moving them to extraction point." Dr. Lila stepped forward cautiously. "You are humans? The ones who answered our distress call?" The Marine nodded, her face visible through the transparent portion of her helmet. "United Earth Navy, ma'am. We're here to get you out." As the Marines began escorting the prisoners toward the extraction point, the ship lurched violently. The Dominion's backup systems were failing under the continued assault from the Earth fleet. "This way," the lead Marine directed, supporting a weakened luminary who stumbled. "Our dropship is waiting." Dr. Lila watched in amazement as the human lifted her companion as if he weighed nothing, despite the luminary male being nearly as tall as the Marine. The human's movements were quick and precise even in the failing artificial gravity. "Your bodies," Lila said wonderingly. "You move as if this environment is natural to you." The Marine actually laughed. "Trust me, this is nothing. You should see Mars during a dust storm, now that's a challenge." On the command deck, Captain Reed and his team had fought their way through the final defenses. Overseer Drack stood with his remaining officers, watching as the armored humans entered. "Surrender your vessel," Reed demanded, his voice slightly distorted through his helmet speakers. "Order your fleet to stand down." Drack drew himself up to his full height, nearly 7 feet tall, and glared down at the human. "I do not surrender to lesser species. The Void Dominion has ruled this sector for 1,000 cycles. We will not bow to—" His speech was cut short as Reed stepped forward, and with strength that shocked the watching Dominion officers, physically, forced Drack down to his knees. "Not asking," Reed said calmly. "Your ships are disabled or destroyed. Your crew is being evacuated. This isn't a negotiation." For the first time in his long military career, Overseer Drack felt genuine fear as he looked into the human's eyes. There was something there that he recognized from the deepest part of his genetic memory, the look of an apex predator. What kind of world creates creatures like you?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Reed's answer was simple. "We call it Earth. You'll learn to respect that name." The main hall of the Luminary Grand Council sparkled with crystalline light. Tall windows captured the planet's gentle blue sun, sending rainbow patterns dancing across the gathered assembly. At the center of the hall stood Commander Morgan and Captain Reed, alongside Admiral Hayes, who had arrived with a diplomatic vessel 3 days after the battle. On elevated platforms surrounding them were the 7 members of the Luminary Council, their silvery robes shimmering with each movement. Behind them, hundreds of Luminary citizens had gathered to witness this historic meeting. High Counselor Ven, the eldest of the Luminary leaders, raised her slender hands for silence. The murmuring crowd immediately stilled. 3 cycles ago, she began, her melodic voice carrying effortlessly through the hall. Our world faced extinction. The Void Dominion, which has terrorized neighboring systems for generations, turned their eyes to our peaceful planet. Our defenses failed. Our ships fell. In desperation, Captain Wren sent a call into the unknown depths of space. She turned her large, silver eyes toward the humans. And you answered. You, who come from a world so unlike our own that we would perish upon its surface within minutes. You who evolved in conditions we can barely comprehend. You came to our aid without hesitation, without demand for payment, without question. Admiral Hayes stepped forward. At 63, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone used to making decisions that affected millions of lives. The people of Earth have a saying, he said. When someone calls for help, you help. It's that simple. A ripple of appreciation moved through the gathered luminari. Their translator devices converted Hayes's words perfectly, but it was the sentiment behind them that resonated most deeply. High Counselor Venn nodded. Such thinking is rare in our experience. The galaxy can be unforgiving. We know something about unforgiving environments. Hayes replied with a small smile. Perhaps that's why we understand the importance of standing together. From the side of the hall, Overseer Drac watched the proceedings with a mixture of anger and fascination. Following the Dominion surrender, he had been brought to the Luminary homeworld as a prisoner. Now he stood with restraints around his wrists, guards at his sides. The Dominion's remaining ships have retreated beyond the outer rim, Morgan reported to the assembly. Our long-range sensors indicate they've abandoned their forward bases in this sector. Captain Wren, newly promoted for his actions during the Yao battle, stepped forward. The question remains, will they return? The Dominion does not forgive defeat. All eyes turned to Drac. The once proud overseer had lost much of his arrogance in the days since the battle. His first-hand experience with humans had fundamentally altered his understanding of the galaxy's power structure. They will not return, Drac said finally. Not to this system. Not while humans protect it. And why is that? Asked Counselor Venn. Drac looked directly at the humans. Because we evolved on what you would call a harsh world. Our atmosphere, our gravity, our natural predators made us stronger than most species we encountered. It made conquest easy. He gestured toward the humans with his restrained hands. But these creatures, they come from a world that would kill a Dominion soldier in hours. Their bones are dense enough to withstand impacts that would shatter ours. Their muscles generate forces we cannot match. Their bodies process toxins that would stop our hearts. They are, he searched for the right word, Deathworlders. The term sent another murmur through the crowd. Is this true? Counselor Venn asked Hayes. Is your world as he describes? Admiral Hayes nodded. Earth has higher gravity than most inhabited planets we've encountered. Our atmosphere has oxygen, levels toxic to many species. We have extreme temperature variations, high background radiation, and thousands of predator species. But to us, it's just home. Dr. Lila, who had been rescued from the Dominion flagship, stepped forward from among the luminary scientists. I have studied the biological data from our human friends. What the Overseer says is accurate, though incomplete. Humans evolved not just through physical adaptation, but through intelligence, cooperation, and remarkable emotional resilience. She displayed a holographic image showing comparative anatomical structures of luminary, Dominion, and human bodies. Notice the human cardiovascular system, redundant pathways, extraordinary efficiency. Their nervous system processes information at speeds that approach our best computing systems. Even their digestive system can neutralize compounds that would be lethal to us. Admiral Hayes cleared his throat, slightly uncomfortable with this public dissection of human biology. The point is, we're different. All species are. What matters is what we do with our differences. Counselor Venn nodded thoughtfully. Indeed. And what you have done is save our world. She gestured to an attendant, who brought forward an ornate crystal container. In gratitude, we offer this. The container opened to reveal an artifact unlike anything the humans had seen before. It appeared to be a sphere about the size of a human fist, composed of interlocking metallic segments that slowly rotated around a pulsing blue core. "This is the luminary resonance key," Ven explained. "It is among our most ancient artifacts, predating our written history. Our legends say it was given to us by those who came before, those who seeded the stars with life." Hayes accepted the gift with appropriate reverence. "We're honored by your trust." "There is more," Ven continued. "The Grand Council has voted unanimously to establish a formal alliance with Earth. We offer our technology, our resources, our friendship." The announcement was met with approval from the gathered Luminari. After witnessing the humans in action, many had come to see them not as frightening Deathworlders, but as powerful protectors. Later that evening, as the planet's 3 moons rose over the Luminari capital city, Commander Morgan stood on a balcony overlooking the peaceful landscape. The air here was thinner than Earth's, the gravity lighter, making Morgan feel almost buoyant. Captain Reed joined them, carrying 2 glasses of a luminescent blue liquid. The locals call it star water, safe for human consumption, according to Dr. Ward. Morgan accepted the drink. "To new friends, ooh, and new possibilities," Reed added, tapping his glass against Morgan's. They drank in comfortable silence for a moment, admiring the alien beauty of the Luminari world. "Admiral Hayes is establishing the first human embassy tomorrow," Morgan said. "Eventually. He's asked me to stay on as the military attaché." Reed nodded. "Makes sense. You're the hero of the Luminari now. Humans everywhere will be once word spreads." "That's what worries me," Morgan admitted. "The galaxy is vast. The Void Dominion is just one power among many. How will others react to learning about Earth? About us?" "With fear, probably," Reed said honestly. "We're walking tanks compared to most species out here. The Luminari scientists can barely believe we evolved naturally." Morgan sighed. "I don't want Earth to be feared. That's not why we answered their call." "Give it time," Reed suggested. "The Luminari feared us too, until they got to know us. Now they're our strongest advocates." Below them in the city streets, a celebration was underway. Luminari music, hauntingly beautiful to human ears, drifted upward. Occasional glimpses of Earth Marines could be seen among the crowds, towering over their hosts but welcomed warmly. The command center of the Relentless, Admiral Hayes studied the strange artifact the Luminari had gifted them. Its blue core pulsed with a rhythm that seemed almost familiar somehow. "Any idea what it does?" he asked Dr. Ward, who was scanning it with various instruments. "Not yet," she admitted. "But there's something odd about its atomic structure. Elements we can't identify. And look at this pattern." She showed him a sequence that the artifact was emitting on a subspace frequency. "It's repeating but slowly changing, almost like it's waiting for something." Hayes ran his finger along the artifact's smooth surface. "The Luminari said it was given to them by those who seeded the stars with life. You think there's some truth to that?" "I don't know," Ward replied. "But one thing's becoming clear as we meet more species. Humans are different. Maybe there's a reason for that." Hayes nodded thoughtfully. Earth had taken its first major step into the wider galaxy, and it had done so by answering a call for help. Whatever came next, whether more conflicts with powers like the Dominion or peaceful exchanges with allies like the Luminari, humanity would face it as they had faced every challenge since emerging from their harsh cradle. Together, with the strength that only Deathworlders could offer, and the compassion that made them answer a desperate SOS from strangers across the stars. The dome-shaped bridge of the science vessel, Peaceful Inquiry, hummed with the soft sounds of working machines. Captain Reed stood at the center, his tall, slender form nearly twice the height of a human. His pale blue skin reflected the gentle lights from the control panels as he studied the main screen. "Captain, we're detecting an unusual energy pattern at the edge of our territory," said Nav Officer Lin, her 4-fingered hands moving carefully over the control panel. Captain Reed turned his large, oval eyes toward the officer. "Show me." The main screen changed to display a pulsing red dot against the black of space. Numbers and symbols scrolled alongside it. Data that meant little to most, but told the science crew everything they needed to know. "It appears to be a ship, sir," Lynn continued. "Power levels are fluctuating. It may be damaged." Reed nodded slowly. The Tellurian Council had clear protocols for such situations. As a peaceful species dedicated to scientific exploration and the exchange of knowledge, they were bound by both law and moral code to investigate any potential distress. "Set course for those coordinates," he ordered. "Inform the medical team to prepare for possible casualties." The peaceful inquiry adjusted its path, its methane-based engines pushing the sleek vessel through space. The Tellurians moved about, their duties with calm efficiency, each of them tall and graceful, evolved for the low-gravity, methane-rich environment of their homeworld. None of them suspected danger. In their 200 years of space exploration, the Tellurians had encountered many species. Most were peaceful. Those that weren't usually avoided the well-respected Tellurian vessels and their valuable medical knowledge. Deep in the shadows of the damaged ship, Director Cole watched his monitors with sharp, predatory eyes. The trap was set perfectly. His yellow eyes narrowed with satisfaction as he observed the approaching Tellurian vessel. "They've taken the bait," he growled to his second-in-command. "Prepare the boarding teams." Around him, the Vex soldiers checked their weapons. They were shorter than Tellurians but more muscular, with tough scaled skin in shades of brown and green. Their faces were flat with forward-facing eyes, the Ikea mark of evolved predators. Sharp teeth glinted as they grinned in anticipation. "Remember," Cole said, his voice low and rough. "We need their medical database intact. Their ship has the research we need to save our people." What Cole didn't say aloud was that he had no intention of asking nicely. The Vex way was to take what they needed. The radiation sickness spreading through their home system had made them desperate, and desperation had only sharpened their natural aggression. "The damage simulations are holding," reported a technician. "Their scans will show critical engine failure and life support issues." Cole nodded. "Good. No Tellurian has ever ignored a ship in distress." Captain Reed stared at the alien vessel through the main viewport as they approached. It was unlike any ship he had seen before. Angular and dark, with what appeared to be weapon mounts along its hull. "Life signs?" he asked. "Faint readings." "Their life support seems to be failing," answered Science Officer Moss. "But Captain, I'm concerned about the design of this vessel. It appears to be military in nature." Reed considered this. "Not all species build with the same purpose as we do. We cannot judge them by their vessels alone." The captain made his decision. "Open a communication channel on all common frequencies." When the channel was ready, Reed spoke clearly. "This is Captain Reed of the Tellurian science vessel Peaceful. Inquiry. We have detected your distress. We offer assistance in accordance with galactic common law." No response came from the dark ship. "Perhaps their communication system is damaged," suggested Lynn. Reed nodded. "Bring us alongside. Prepare a boarding team. Medical personnel only with environmental gear. We don't know what atmosphere they breathe." As the Tellurian vessel maneuvered closer, none of its crew noticed the subtle movement of the alien ship's external hatches or the dark figures waiting inside. "Sir, they're moving into position," whispered the Vex tactical officer. "They're preparing to send a boarding party." Cole's lips pulled back in what passed for a smile among his kind. "Perfect. Let them come. Once they're aboard, we'll have hostages to ensure their cooperation." He turned to his boarding team leader. "Wait until their medical team is aboard, then move. I want control of their ship within 10 minutes. Minimal casualties. They're no use to us dead." The boarding team leader nodded, his clawed hand tightening on his weapon. As the Tellurian medical team prepared to board the damaged vessel, Captain Reed made one final decision. Following standard procedure for an unknown situation, he activated the ship's emergency beacon. "Broadcasting distress signal on all frequencies," announced Communications Officer Trell. Message reads, "Tellurian vessel, Peaceful Inquiry responding to ship in distress at coordinate Sector 7, Quadrant 4, Mark 23. Unknown vessel of military design. Boarding to render assistance. Will update. Reed nodded his approval. It was standard practice, a safety measure to alert any nearby ships of their situation. The Tellurians had good relations with most spacefaring species in this sector. If things went wrong, help would come. What Reed couldn't know was how far that signal would travel, or who would receive it. The signal raced outward, spreading across the vastness of space. It passed beyond Tellurian territory, beyond the hunting grounds of the Vex, and into regions of space where neither species had ever ventured. 3 days later, and many light years away, a communications officer on the United Earth Defense Fleet flagship Relentless Mercy sat up straight in her chair. "Admiral, we're receiving a distress call. It's not from one of our ships." Admiral Torres looked up from her desk. She was a compact woman with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, her brown eyes sharp and alert. Her uniform bore the patches of many missions, each one a testament to humanity's growing role in space. "Put it through," she ordered. As she listened to the message, her expression grew serious. Humanity had only recently ventured this far into space. They had made contact with a few alien species, but none had ever called for help before. "Can we verify the source?" she asked. "Signal characteristics match what we know of Tellurian communications, Admiral," replied the officer. "They're one of the species mentioned in the first contact briefings, methane breathers known for medical science." Torres stood up, decision already made. This was exactly the opportunity Earth had been waiting for, a chance to prove humans were valuable allies in the galactic community. "Alert all ships. Prepare for jump to those coordinates," she ordered. "Full rescue protocol. Marines on standby with environmental gear." As the orders went out, Torres looked at the star map showing their destination. "Time to show the galaxy what humans can do," she said quietly. What she didn't say, what every human aboard already knew, was that they were classified as Deathworlders by the few aliens they had met. Evolved on a high-gravity, oxygen-rich planet with extreme weather and dangerous wildlife, humans were stronger, faster, and more durable than most known species. The aliens thought this made humans dangerous. Torres intended to show them it made humans excellent rescuers. The fleet prepared to jump, unaware they were heading toward a trap, and that their arrival would change the course of galactic politics forever. The Tellurian medical team had just entered the airlock connecting to the damaged vessel when the first shots were fired. The sound of energy weapons echoed through the metal corridors, followed by the screams of the medical staff. On the bridge of the peaceful Inquiry, Captain Reed's large eyes widened in shock as the emergency alarms blared. "We're being boarded," shouted Security Officer Pax, her voice unnaturally high with fear. "Armed intruders coming through multiple entry points." Reed had never faced such a situation. Tellurians were scientists and healers, not warriors. Their security teams carried only light stunning weapons, meant for defense against wild animals during planetary exploration. "Seal the bridge," Reed ordered. "Send emergency teams to assist the medical staff, and boost our distress signal." Communications. Officer Trell worked quickly at his station, fingers flying over the controls. "Signal boosted, Captain. Adding details of the attack." On the screens, Reed could see the invaders moving through his ship. They were shorter than Tellurians, but heavily muscled, with scaled skin and predatory features. Each carried what was clearly a military-grade weapon. "Vex," whispered Science Officer Moss in horror. "I've read about them. They're raiders from the outer systems." Reed felt a cold fear settle in his chest. The Tellurians had valuable medical research aboard, knowledge that many would kill to obtain, and now they were trapped. In the cold darkness of space, reality itself seemed to bend and twist. A shimmering point of light appeared, growing rapidly into a swirling portal of blue energy. From this portal emerged 5 sleek vessels, their hulls bearing the emblem of the United Earth Defense Fleet. The flagship, Relentless Mercy, led the formation, flanked by 4 smaller but equally powerful ships. Inside, Admiral Torres stood, at the command center surveying the tactical display. "Status report," she ordered. "Jump complete, Admiral. All ships present and accounted for, reported Navigation Officer Park. Sensors detecting 2 vessels at the transmitted coordinates. One matches Tellurian configurations. The other is unknown. Torres nodded. Life signs? Multiple readings on both ships, replied the sensor operator. But there's unusual movement. On the Tellurian vessel, it looks like boarding action. Torres's eyes narrowed. This wasn't a simple rescue anymore. Battle stations, shields up, prepare boarding shuttles. I want Commander Bell and his Marines ready to launch in 5 minutes. Throughout the ship, lights shifted to battle-ready red as crew members moved with practiced efficiency. Unlike the Tellurians, humans had evolved from predators themselves and had never fully abandoned their warrior heritage. Even as they reached for the stars, Director Cole was in the process of accessing the Tellurian ship's main computer when the alarm sounded. "Director," called his tactical officer, voice tight with surprise. 5 ships just appeared from nowhere. They're huge." Cole rushed to the view screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. The approaching vessels dwarfed both his ship and the Tellurian vessel. Their design was unfamiliar, sleek but clearly built for battle. "Who are they?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. They're not broadcasting any identification we recognize." Cole's mind raced. This sector was supposed to be clear of any major military powers. The Tellurians had no fleet of their own. Who would respond to their distress call with such force? "Continue the data transfer," he ordered, "and prepare to repel boarders. Whatever they are, they won't take our prize easily." In the shuttle bay of the Relentless Mercy, Commander Bell checked his tactical gear one last time. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a face marked by past battles. Around him, 30 Marines did the same. Each one a volunteer, each one trained specifically for rescue operations in hostile environments. "Remember," Bell told his team, "our primary objective is the safety of the Tellurian crew. We don't know who the attackers are or what they want, but we know they fired first." The Marines nodded, faces serious beneath their helmet visors. Their armor was designed to work in almost any environment, including the methane atmosphere that Tellurians breathed. "Launch in 60 seconds, came the announcement over the speaker. Bell took his place in the lead shuttle. As the bay doors opened to reveal the blackness of space, he felt the familiar mix of tension and focus that came before every mission. The shuttles launched smoothly, accelerating toward the Tellurian vessel. On the bridge of the Peaceful Inquiry, Captain Reed was trying desperately to negotiate with the Vex invaders. 3 of the scaled warriors had broken through to the bridge, their weapons trained on the Tellurian crew. "Please," Reed said, hands raised in the universal gesture of surrender. "We are a scientific vessel. We carry no weapons or valuables." The Vex leader laughed, a harsh sound that showed his pointed teeth. "Your medical database is all the value we need, Tellurian. Our people are dying of radiation sickness. Your research will save them, whether you cooperate or not." A sudden commotion from the communication station interrupted them. Trell looked up, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and hope. "Captain, the ships that responded to our distress call are trying to contact us," the Vex leader snarled, pointing his weapon at Trell. "Ignore them." But Reed saw his chance. Before the Vex could stop him, he lunged for the communication panel and slapped the broadcast button. "This is Captain Reed of the Peaceful Inquiry. We are under attack. Boarders have taken control of most of the ship. They're after our medical database." The Vex leader fired, the energy beam missing Reed's head by inches. The captain fell back, but his message had gone through. Admiral Torres heard the broken transmission and made her decision instantly. "All shuttles cleared to board. Commander Bell, you have authorization to use necessary force to secure the Tellurian crew." On the tactical display, she watched as the human shuttles approached the Tellurian vessel. At the same time, she opened a channel to the unknown ship. "This is Admiral Torres of the United Earth Defense Fleet. You are engaged in an illegal boarding action against a civilian science vessel. Withdraw your forces immediately, or face military response." The reply, when it came, was filled with surprise, and something that sounded like fear. "Earth? Humans? This is not your territory. This matter does not concern you." Torres allowed herself a small, grim smile. "When someone sends a distress call, it concerns us. You have 1 minute to begin withdrawal. Commander Bell felt the shuttle dock with a solid thunk. The airlock cycled, adjusting to match the methane-rich atmosphere of the Tellurian ship. His helmet sealed automatically, and the heads-up display confirmed the environment was exactly as expected. "Move out," he ordered, and the Marines flowed from the shuttle with practiced precision. They encountered resistance almost immediately. A group of scaled aliens had set up a defensive position in the corridor, their weapons trained on the airlock. "Surrender and withdraw," Bell called out, following protocol. The aliens responded with weapon fire. Bell and his Marines took cover and returned fire with disciplined bursts. Their weapons were set to stun, standard procedure for a rescue operation. But even non-lethal, the force of the human weapons was devastating. 2 of the aliens went down immediately. A third fired, wildly, the shot grazing Bell's armor. The commander felt the impact but ignored it, moving forward in a crouch and firing again. The remaining aliens fell back, clearly shocked by the speed and coordination of the human response. One of them shouted something in their own language. That sounded like a warning. "They're retreating," reported Sergeant Mills. "Should we pursue?" Bell nodded. "Follow, but stay in formation. Our objective is the bridge." As they moved deeper into the ship, Bell noticed the bodies of Tellurians, tall, blue-skinned aliens with peaceful faces even in death. The sight hardened his resolve. The aliens had made a serious mistake. They had sent out a distress call, and Deathworlders had answered. Now they would learn why that was something to fear. Director Cole slammed his fist against the wall of the Tellurian ship's data center. The progress bar on the screen showed only 43% completion of the medical database transfer. "What's happening?" he demanded, turning to his second-in-command. "The humans are moving through the ship too quickly," replied the officer, his scaled face tight with stress. "Our teams can't hold them back. They're not like other species we've encountered." Cole had heard rumors about humans. They came from a high-gravity world with a poisonous oxygen atmosphere and extreme temperature variations. Some called them Deathworlders, creatures evolved to survive conditions that would kill most sentient species. But he had dismissed these stories as exaggerations. Now he wasn't so sure. "Send the signal to our outpost," he ordered. "We need reinforcements." As his officer hurried to obey, Cole drew his sidearm. "I'll go slow them down myself. The data transfer must be completed." Commander Bell moved cautiously through the curved corridors of the Tellurian vessel. The ship's design was different from human vessels, wider, with softer edges and flowing lines, designed for comfort rather than combat. "Life signs ahead," whispered Sergeant Mills, checking her scanner. 1 Tellurian, 3 of the hostiles. Bell signaled for the team to take position. They moved with practiced efficiency, setting up a perfect ambush point. The door slid open, and 2 of the scaled aliens backed into view, dragging a tall Tellurian between them. The alien scientist looked injured, blue skin paler than normal. "Now," ordered Bell. The Marines fired in perfect unison. 2 stun blasts hit each of the aliens, sending them crumpling to the deck. The Tellurian stumbled, then looked up in shock at the armored humans. You're not Vex," the Tellurian said, voice weak but clear through the translation device. "We're humans," Bell replied, approaching carefully. "From Earth. We received your distress call." The Tellurian's large eyes blinked rapidly. "Earth? But that's so far away. You came all this way to help?" Bell nodded, helping the alien to a nearby bench. "It's what we do. I'm Commander Bell. What's your name?" "Moss. Science Officer Moss." The Tellurian glanced at the unconscious Vex. "They're after our medical research. They said their people are dying from radiation sickness." Bell frowned behind his visor. This complicated matters. Raiders were one thing, but desperate people trying to save their species? That was something else. "Can you take us to the bridge?" he asked. Moss nodded. "This way. But please hurry. Captain Reed may not have much time." On the bridge of the Relentless Mercy, Admiral Torres watched the tactical display with growing concern. "Ma'am," reported her sensor officer, "we're detecting multiple ships emerging from the nearby asteroid field. They matched the configuration of the vessel that attacked the Tellurians. Torres's expression hardened. How many? 7 ships, Admiral. Small but heavily armed. Torres considered her options. The human fleet consisted of 5 ships, all larger and more powerful than the alien vessels. But they were also in unknown territory, responding to a distress call that had unexpectedly turned into a potential battle. Open a channel to all approaching vessels, she ordered. Let's try talking one more time. The communications officer worked his console. Channel open, Admiral. Torres stood straight, her voice firm. This is Admiral Torres of the United Earth Defense Fleet. You are approaching a vessel under our protection. We responded to a distress call and found your forces attacking a civilian science ship. Stand down and withdraw, or we will be forced to defend ourselves and the Tellurians. The response came quickly, a different voice than before, deeper and more authoritative. Human vessels, this is Fleet Commander Tarek of the Vex Protectorate. The Tellurian research is vital to our survival. We cannot withdraw. If you interfere, the consequences will be your responsibility. Torres sighed. She had hoped to avoid this. Very well. You've made your choice. She turned to her weapons officer. Target their engines only. I want to disable, not destroy. Captain Reed watched in amazement as the human marine team fought their way onto the bridge. They moved with incredible speed and coordination, their stun weapons dropping the Vex borders before they could react. Commander Bell approached Reed, removing his helmet to reveal a face that looked surprisingly similar to a Tellurian's, despite the different coloring and smaller eyes. Captain Reed? I'm Commander Bell, United Earth Defense Fleet. Are you injured? Reed shook his head. No, Commander. Thank you for your timely arrival. Before Bell could respond, the ship shuddered violently. What was that? Bell demanded, immediately alert. Communication Officer Trell checked his console. The Vex ship is firing on us. And there are more Vex vessels approaching. Bell replaced his helmet and activated his comlink. Admiral Torres, this is Bell. We've secured the bridge and the captain, but we're taking fire from the Vex ship. Torres's voice came through clearly. Understood, Commander. We're engaging the Vex fleet now. Can the Tellurian vessel move under its own power? Bell looked to Captain Reed, who shook his head. Negative, Admiral. Their engines were sabotaged. Then, prepare for evacuation, Torres ordered. Get the Tellurian crew to our ships. Outside in the cold vacuum of space, the battle had begun. The human vessels fired precise shots, targeting the engines and weapons systems of the approaching Vex ships. 2 of the smaller vessels immediately lost power, drifting helplessly. But the Vex fought back fiercely. Energy beams struck the shields of the relentless Mercy, causing them to flare bright blue. Shields holding at 82%, reported the defense officer. Their weapons are surprisingly powerful for vessels that size. Torres nodded. They're desperate. That makes them dangerous. She turned to her tactical officer. Status of the evacuation? Commander Bell reports they're moving the Tellurian crew to the shuttles now. Estimated time to completion, 15 minutes. Torres frowned. That was too long. The Vex ships were maneuvering to surround them. Send in the 2nd Marine Team, she ordered, and prepare point defense systems. If they launch boarding craft of their own, I want them intercepted. Director Cole had almost reached the data center when the ship shook from weapons fire. He steadied himself against a wall, then continued forward with renewed urgency. Turning a corner, he found himself face to face with a human. The Deathworlder was tall. Not as tall as a Tellurian, but taller than any Vex. The human wore armor that seemed to enhance rather than restrict movement. Behind the clear visor, Cole could see a face that somehow managed to look both similar to and completely different from his own. The eyes, in particular, held an intelligence and determination that sent a chill down Cole's spine. Instinct took over. Cole raised his weapon and fired. The energy bolt struck the human directly in the chest. The armor absorbed most of the impact, but the force still knocked the human back a step. Cole expected the human to fall. Any other species would have been incapacitated by such a hit. Instead, the human looked down at the scorch mark on the armor, then back up at call, and then, most terrifying of all, the human smiled. "That," said Commander Bell, "was a mistake." Before Cole could fire again, the human moved, faster than any creature of that size should be able to move. The weapon was knocked from Cole's hand, and a powerful blow sent him crashing to the Thorsier. As darkness closed in, Cole's last thought was that the stories were true. Deathworlders were real, and they were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Director Cole woke to a pounding headache and the strange sensation of being watched. He opened his eyes slowly, finding himself in what appeared to be a medical bay, but the design was unfamiliar, neither Vex nor Tellurian. "He's awake," said a voice. Cole turned his head to see a human standing nearby. This one wasn't wearing the full armor he'd seen before, just a simple uniform with markings he didn't recognize. "Where am I?" Cole demanded, trying to sit up. He discovered his hands were bound to the bed with some kind of energy restraint. "You're aboard the Relentless Mercy," replied the human. "I'm Dr. Wilson, Chief Medical Officer. You've been unconscious for about 3 hours." Cole's memories came flooding back. The raid, the human's arrival, his confrontation with the armored Deathworlder. He looked around frantically. "My people, my ship." "Your people are safe," came another voice. A woman entered the room, her uniform more elaborate than the doctor's. "Most of them, anyway. You lost 12 soldiers in the fighting. The rest are being held in our secure quarters." She moved closer, her posture straight and commanding. "I'm Admiral Torres. You and I need to talk, Director Cole." On the bridge of the Relentless Mercy, Captain Reed of the Tellurian stood beside Commander Bell, watching the main view screen with fascination. The display showed the disabled Vex fleet, surrounded by the much larger human vessels. The Tellurian ship, Peaceful Inquiry, was being towed by one of the human support vessels. "Your technology is remarkable," Reed said, his large eyes blinking. In what Bell had learned was an expression of admiration. "We had no idea humans had advanced so far." Bell smiled. "We've had to. Earth isn't an easy world to live on. It made us good at solving problems." Science Officer Moss joined them, carrying a data pad. The tall, blue-skinned alien had been working with the human medical team reviewing the research that the Vex had been so desperate to steal. "Commander," Moss said, "I believe I understand why the Vex attacked us now." He held out the pad. "My research team has been studying radiation treatments for methane-based life forms like ourselves. But with some modifications, the treatment could work for oxygen breathers too." Bell took the pad, studying the complex medical information. He wasn't a doctor, but even he could see the implications. "The Vex said their people were suffering from radiation sickness." Moss nodded. "A stellar event in their home system, according to what we learned from their computer systems. Their primary worlds were exposed to massive radiation. Without treatment, their entire species could be extinct within a generation." Bell frowned. "That explains their desperation, but not why they chose violence instead of just asking for help." "The Vex are proud," Reed explained, "and they have a history of taking what they need. Many species in this sector avoid them." Bell handed the pad back to Moss. "Could you really help them, if they had asked peacefully?" Moss's expression shifted to what Bell now recognized as sadness. "Yes, we would have. That is the Tellurian way." Admiral Torres studied the Vex leader carefully. Despite his restraints, Director Cole maintained an air of defiance. His scaled skin was a darker green than the other Vex she'd seen, marked with scars that suggested a lifetime of conflict. "Your fleet is disabled," Torres said calmly. "Your boarding parties have been captured. The Tellurian vessel is under our protection. This situation has only one peaceful resolution, Director." Cole's yellow eyes narrowed. "And what would that be, human? You tell me why you were so desperate for the Tellurian medical database that you risked war with an unknown species to get it." For a long moment, Cole was silent. Then, perhaps seeing no alternative, he spoke. 2 years ago, a neutron star in our home system went supernova. The radiation shields on our 3 core worlds failed. Millions died immediately. Millions more are dying slowly of radiation poisoning. His voice grew rough with emotion. Our scientists can't find a cure. The Tellurians are known for their medical knowledge. We needed their research. Torres nodded slowly. So you decided to steal it instead of asking for help. Cole made a harsh sound that might have been a laugh. Ask? The Tellurians would never share such valuable knowledge with the Vex. We're warriors, hunters. They see us as savages. That's not true, came a new voice. Torres turned to see Captain Reed entering the room, accompanied by Commander Bell and Science Officer Moss. The Tellurians do not withhold medical knowledge from any species, Reed said, his voice gentle but firm. If you had approached us openly, explained your situation, we would have helped. Cole stared at the Tellurian captain in disbelief. You would share your research with us? After we attacked your ship? Killed your crew? Moss stepped forward, holding up the datapad. We are healers, Director Cole. We cannot ignore suffering, even of those who have harmed us. He turned to Admiral Torres. With your permission, Admiral, I would like to share our radiation treatment protocols with the Vex. Their physiology is different from ours, but the principles should work with some modification. Torres looked from the Tellurian to the Vex leader, then to Commander Bell, who gave a slight nod. I think that would be acceptable, Torres said, under certain conditions. An hour later, representatives from all three species gathered in the conference room of the Relentless Mercy. Cole had been released from his restraints but was flanked by 2 human Marines. Fleet Commander Tarek had been brought aboard as well, his initial hostility now replaced by cautious attention. Here is what I propose, Admiral Torres said, standing at the head of the table. The Tellurians will share their medical research with the Vex, supervised by our scientists. In exchange, the Vex will sign a formal peace treaty with both the Tellurian Council and Earth. Tarek leaned forward. And our ships? Our crews? Will be returned to you once the agreement is signed, Torres replied, with the understanding that any future aggression against either of our peoples will be met with immediate and decisive response. Captain Reed spoke up. The Tellurian Council will agree to this arrangement. We have already transmitted the situation, and they have authorized me to act on their behalf. All eyes turned to the Vex leaders. Cole looked at Tarek, a silent communication passing between them. Then he turned back to Torres. The Vex Protectorate accepts these terms, he said formally. We did not expect mercy from Deathworlders. Torres allowed herself a small smile. That's the thing about humans, Director. We can be your worst enemy or your strongest ally. The choice is usually yours. She stood and extended her hand, a human gesture of agreement. After a moment's hesitation, Cole stood as well and clasped it with his scaled hand. Around the table, Tellurians and humans and Vex watched as a new chapter in galactic relations began, all because of a distress call that had reached farther than anyone expected. 6 months had passed since the incident at the edge of Tellurian space. The grand meeting hall aboard the human flagship, Relentless Mercy, had been transformed for the occasion. Representatives from 3 species gathered under the soft lighting, their differences as obvious as their common purpose. Admiral Torres stood on the raised platform, watching as the final preparations were made. She wore her formal dress uniform, decorated with the new insignia created specifically for this historic moment. 3 stars in a triangle, representing the alliance that was about to be formalized. Nervous? Asked Commander Bell, joining her on the platform. Like Torres, he wore his dress uniform, though he looked less comfortable in it than in his combat armor. Torres smiled slightly. A little. 6 months ago, these species had never met humans. Today, we're signing a treaty that will change the politics of this entire sector. Bell nodded, watching as Tellurian dignitaries glided gracefully through the room, their tall blue forms standing out among the humans and Vex. Captain Reed says the Tellurian Council is already talking about expanding the alliance to include other peaceful species. One step at a time, Commander. Torres straightened her uniform. We still have a lot to learn about this part of space. Chime sounded, signaling that it was time to begin the ceremony. Director Cole stood with Fleet Commander Tarek at the entrance to the meeting hall. Both Vex leaders wore ceremonial cloaks over their scaled bodies, dark green fabric embroidered with the symbols of their homeworlds. "I never thought I would see this day," Tarek said quietly. "Vex standing as equals with Tellurians and humans." Cole nodded, his expression thoughtful. "The radiation treatments are working. The first reports from our homeworlds show a 78% recovery rate." He looked across the room to where Science Officer Moss was speaking with a group of human doctors. "We would have lost millions more without their help. And without the humans to make them listen to us," Tarek added. That was the part that still amazed Cole. The Deathworlders could have destroyed the Vex fleet. They had every reason to. Instead, they had chosen to broker peace, to find a solution that benefited everyone. A human officer approached them, bowing slightly in the Vex manner. "Director Cole, Commander Tarek, it's time." Captain Reed stood with his fellow Tellurians, watching as the human and Vex delegations took their places. The past 6 months had been a time of incredible learning for his people. The Tellurians had always considered themselves advanced, especially in medicine and science, but the humans had shown them technologies they had never imagined. And the Vex, once their dialogue began, proved to have insights into space travel that even humans found valuable. "Are you ready, Captain?" asked Science Officer Moss now, wearing the robes of a High Counselor, a promotion earned for his role in establishing peace. Reed nodded. "Yes, though I still find it remarkable how everything has unfolded." He looked around the hall. "When I sent that distress call, I expected perhaps another Tellurian vessel to respond. Not this." Moss made the gentle humming sound that was the Tellurian equivalent of laughter. "Sometimes the universe has plans we cannot foresee." The Tellurian delegation moved forward to join the others at the central table. The treaty signing was broadcast throughout human space, across the Tellurian worlds and to the recovering Vex homeworlds. 3 leaders, Admiral Torres for Earth, High Counselor Moss for the Tellurians, and Director Cole for the Vex, each placed their hand on the document and spoke the words that formalized their alliance. "With this agreement," Torres declared, "we pledge cooperation in medicine, science, and security. The knowledge and strengths of our peoples will be shared for the benefit of all." Moss continued, "The borders between our territories shall be open to peaceful travel. Our differences will be addressed through dialogue, never through force." And finally, Cole spoke words that would have been unimaginable from a Vex leader just months before. "We recognize that together we are stronger than alone. The stars offer challenges enough without making enemies of each other." As the document was sealed, applause filled the hall, a human custom that the Tellurians and Vex had adopted with enthusiasm. Later, as the formal reception continued, Admiral Torres found herself standing with Captain Reed and Director Cole on the observation deck of the Relentless Mercy. Through the huge windows, they could see the stars and the gathered ships of all 3 species, no longer positioned for battle, but for celebration. "I must confess something, Admiral," Reed said, his large eyes reflecting the starlight. "When our distress call went out, we were terrified that someone dangerous might respond. When your fleet appeared, so large, so powerful, many of my crew feared the worst." Torres raised an eyebrow. "Because we're Deathworlders?" Reed's skin flushed a deeper blue with embarrassment. "Yes. The stories we had heard, they painted humans as potentially violent, unpredictable." "Not entirely wrong," Cole interjected with what Torres had learned was a Vex smile, but incomplete. Torres looked out at the stars. "Earth is a harsh world by your standards. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, oxygen atmosphere that would be toxic to both your species. We evolved to survive there by being adaptable, strong, and yes, sometimes aggressive." She turned back to face them. "But the same conditions that made us physically tough also taught us to value cooperation. No human survives alone. We learned that lesson early in our history." Reed nodded slowly. "A valuable lesson for all species, perhaps." "Indeed," said Cole. "If we had learned it sooner, Perhaps we would have approached the Tellurians openly instead of with weapons. A comfortable silence fell between them as they contemplated the view. Three leaders from three worlds that could not be more different, united by a chance distress call. 1 year later, a small Vex child sat in a medical facility on the newly established tripartite station. The space station, built at the junction of human, Tellurian, and Vex territories, served as both embassy and research center for the three allied species. The child watched with curious yellow eyes as a Tellurian doctor prepared a treatment device. Nearby, a human security officer stood guard, standard procedure for all medical facilities, though no violence had occurred on the station since its establishment. "Will it hurt?" the Vex child asked the Tellurian doctor. "No, little one," the doctor replied gently. "This is the last treatment you will need. After today, the radiation damage will be fully healed." The human guard smiled at the child. "You're very brave. When I was your age, I was terrified of doctors." The child looked at the human with surprise. "But humans aren't afraid of anything. You're Deathworlders." The human laughed. "We get scared too. We just don't let fear stop us from doing what needs to be done." The Tellurian doctor activated the treatment device, bathing the child in soft blue light. "That is perhaps the most important lesson the Alliance has taught all our peoples," the doctor said thoughtfully. "Strength comes in many forms. Sometimes in a rescue fleet responding to a distress call. Sometimes in the courage to trust former enemies." Outside the window of the treatment room, ships of all three species moved peacefully through space, their paths intertwined like the futures of their peoples. The distress call that had been sent in desperation had led not to destruction, but to understanding. And in the vast darkness of space, new light shone from an alliance none had imagined possible.